Hello, and welcome to today's episode. In today's episode, we will be demonstrating the putting up and taking down of an Aboriginal teepee, both in the Ojibwe style and the Cree style. Let's begin. Here will be the site for our teepees. The teepees in today's episode were crafted and provided by CreeStarGifts.com. And go check them out at CreeStarGifts.com, where they have stocks ranging from blankets to teepees, where they ship nationally as well. Here, you see the teepee poles that are being used in today's episode. And there's John walking by, getting ready to take them off the trailer. And here you see them assembling the door. Just find a couple of sticks, good sized ones at most, and then tie them on using the ties built into the assembly. And then you have a door for your teepees. When finding branches for your door assembly, make sure to round off the ends as to not rip the canvas on the teepee. This part of the teepee assembly is really simple, and it's a very crucial part in the assembly of the teepee. Here, you can see that they're beginning to unload the teepee poles. When building teepees, it's good to have extra hands helping. Here, you can see Corinne and John putting a couple of poles off to the side. And these ones will be used later in the video. One by one, they remove the poles off of the trailer. Each pole being as important to the other. As soon as you have all your equipment and tools ready, you are then ready to begin the process of building your teepee. Step 1. Spread out the canvas, and be sure to give yourself room, as most canvases can be quite large. The two larger flaps are the smoke flaps, and the small flap in the center is the lift pole flap, each having a crucial role in the assembly of a teepee. Here is the center line of the teepee canvas. This is where the lift pole will be placed once we get to that step. Step 2. Pick out 3 of your largest poles to create the tripod. These will be your 3 main poles. You create the tripod by tying the 3 poles together. Step 3. Place 2 poles side by side on the canvas. These 2 poles will be the main back poles, opposite of the door. Notice that these 2 poles are placed 5 to 6 feet on the right side of the center and pass through the top lift flap. When assembling a teepee, do not tie the tripod onto the canvas. That's the purpose of the lift pole. Then lay the third pole near the doorway, which will end up on top of the first two poles, at the lift pole flap. And make sure that the pole is about 2 feet from the doorway. Step 4. Make sure you have the 3 poles sticking out past the canvas approximately 4 to 6 inches. See the ruler for measurement. The poles must stick out, so when the teepee is standing, it will lay flush with the teepee poles. And if you lay it flush with the canvas will droop past the teepee poles. Keep that in mind for assembly. Make note of where the poles are positioned on the canvas. Step 5. Now you're ready to tie the tripod together. The best size of rope to use for this step is 1/4 inch manila rope, and about 12 feet of it. It is good practice to wrap each pole at least 4 times, then wrap the rope between each pole to tighten it. It doesn't matter what kind of knot you use, as long as it doesn't slip. But if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. Make note that you do not tie the tripod onto the teepee canvas. What I've heard is that that's a common mistake, but don't do that yet. That's what the lift pole is for, which is one of the final steps in this teepee assembly. Some of the different Aboriginal First Nations had different tying techniques for their teepees. So ask your elders if there was any other techniques used in your community. Fun fact: it was usually the women of the tribes that owned, took care of, and set up the teepees. I'm going to speed up the rest of this clip, but please, check the end of the video for more techniques on tying the knots for the tripod. Make sure the knots are tight but flexible to ensure structural integrity. Cree Style Gifts has a range of stocks ranging from blankets to the teepee shown in the video. And if you want to buy one for your family, check out their website at creestargifts.com or check out their Facebook to catch up on all their latest adventures. Both web pages will be linked in the description. Now back to the video. Step 6. After the tripod is tied, then add 3/4 inch rope or half-inch rope to the tripod. And after that, you need to measure how far apart you need to spread your door pole from the back poles. You do this by walking from the door pole to the back poles and counting your steps. When you put up the tripod, you now know how many steps there are along the edge of the canvas from the door pole to the back pole. This is where the back pole will be placed, which is the lift pole and is between the two back poles. Step 7. The next step is to move the tripod and lift it. First, move the tripod off the canvas and carry it to where you'll be putting up the teepee. But make sure the area is flat ground for structural integrity. In this step, you'll have to face your door in the direction where you want your entrance. In the olden days, they used to face their doors towards the rising sun. But if the weather was bad, they'd face it away from the weather. The next step is to raise the tripod. To raise the tripod, you will need 3 to 5 people to help, depending on the size of the teepee. You will need one person to hold each pole and placing their foot on the end of the poles. This is to ensure that the poles won't slide back down when raising the structure. Here, they prepare to raise the structure. While the one person is lifting the structure, the person with the rope should start pulling slowly with it. Once the structure is 45 degrees or 60 degrees, the person with the outside door pole should start moving the pole clockwise, as to allow the tripod to stand. Now the structure is up. Step 8. Next, you'll need to adjust the poles around until the left door pole and the 2 back poles are in the proper position. Then you are ready to add the right side door pole. Be sure to lean the top of the pole on the left side of the tripod. Once in place, the person on the rope should wrap the pole at least twice, and the person on the rope should do this as tight as possible. It's good practice to whip the rope around with your right arm in order to cinch it up close to where it's getting wrapped. Here, you can see it's careening with the rope. To make sure the structure is strong, wrap the rope tightly around the top. After the second door pole is secure, you may want to readjust 1 or more poles. Step 9. This is where you measure the distance from the door pole to the back poles. So you stand between the door poles facing the back and walk the same number of steps as when you measured it on the canvas. So, if it's 9 steps, then spread out the poles 9 steps wide. The tripod should be about 8 to 9 steps wide from the side to side as well. Once you walk these steps, mark it, as this will be where the last pole will be placed. This pole is also known as the lift pole. Step 10. Now you're ready to add the rest of the poles. Start with the right side of the door, making sure the top of the pole rests against the left side of the structure. Check out the diagram to see where to place the remainder of the poles. In this step, make sure you wrap the rope tightly around each pole before you put on the next one. I will speed up this segment as it's pretty repetitive and it's just poles going up. After the last pole is in place, continue to wrap the rope around the pole, and wrap it at least 3 full times around, and then tie the remaining rope around one of the back poles. Step 11. Now it's time to tie the canvas to the last pole, which is the lift pole. Have your canvas laid out with the inside down. And make sure it's flat, with no bunches in any areas. Then slide the lift pole underneath, until there's only 6 inches sticking out the bottom. Make sure it's in the middle and the point is lined up with the lift pole flap. Again, the lift pole flap is the little flap between the smoke flaps. Here, you can see the lift pole is lined up in the center of the canvas. And this step is nearly complete. See the ruler and see how much the pole sticks out past the canvas. Remember, you do not want to make the pole flush with the canvas. Otherwise, the canvas overreaches the lift pole. And all the other poles in that matter. Use a 1/4 inch manila rope to tie the canvas to the lift pole. And you'll need at least 8 feet of the rope. You will need to tie and wrap around the canvas and the pole around 7 to 8 times. That way, when you lift the pole, the canvas won't slip down. I'm going to speed up this clip a little bit, but watch how John ties the knots on this section. While editing for this video, I tried finding some good puns for teepees, but most of them were past tense. Hahaha. You get it? And then I tried finding some teepee jokes, but there weren't any good ones. After you tie the canvas to the lift pole, you will need to roll up the canvas on each side of the pole. And this is easily achieved if you got helpers on the job. That way, this job could take a whole afternoon or less than 2 hours. I wonder if there's a competition for that. Step 12. Once this is done, you are now ready to place the pole at the back of the teepee. You will need 3 to 4 people to lift the pole and the lift pole canvas up. The canvas is heavy, and this stage is a little awkward. But with the team, this is pretty easy. You will have to pick it up and carry it to where you marked the lift pole spot earlier. Here, you see that the spot is marked. And from here, someone should put their foot on the bottom of the pole so it does not slide down onto the ground when you start lifting. The top of the pole should fit right between the 2 back poles. But make sure everyone's helping. And with everyone pitching in, you could have the lift pole up right away. But remember, you must fit it between the 2 back poles, as shown in the video here. When you do this, it helps hold on the lift pole. Step 13. After the lift pole is up, then start unrolling the canvas on each side until both sides meet at the door. but make sure every pole is stable before you continue. Step 14. You are now ready to lace it up with the lacing pins, which are small wooden sticks about ½ inch in diameter. You start from the top and you work your way down. You might need to pull on the canvas as well and adjust it somewhat. You'll also need a person on each side to hold the canvas steady while you insert the pins. Watch how John puts the pins into the canvas. And with a good hand, you could probably do the step really quickly. The pins are a very important part of the teepee. By holding it all together, and giving the teepee a good look both on the inside and the outside. I'm going to speed through this clip just a little bit, but watch how John puts in the pins. There we go. I think John's done with the top pins. Let's go to the outside and do the rest. From the outside, you get a better look on how it looks on the outside. And I gotta say, it's pretty stunning. The door actually hangs from one of these. One of the higher ones specifically. You'll see in one of the after clips. Oh, and make note of these lower pins for after when the video's nearly over. It's specifically different in the Ojibwe style, apart from the Cree one. By placing stakes all around the teepee, specifically at the base. The teepee looks just about done, but there's still a couple more steps to go. If you let the canvas overlap the teepee when you're putting it together, the canvas would have drooped down onto the ground. But this is how you want it to be, and keep that in mind. After you put those basic stakes down, go inside the teepee and push out the poles just a little bit more if need be. And step 17. After the poles look as far as they are, then go back outside and stake the entire teepee down. Watch as John readjusts the teepee poles. After the poles look placed as far as they are, then go back outside and stake the entire teepee down. Step 18. After it is all staked down, then use the last two poles. Remember them from the beginning of the video? These last two poles will be used for the smoke flaps. But make sure you use smaller poles for the smoke flaps, as heavy poles make this step a little more difficult and pretty awkward to do. Observe as John maneuvers the pole around in order to catch the smoke flap. Remember, you will put a smoke flap pole on this side and the other side of the teepee. And this part of the teepee is a pretty important one. This side is complete, and now to do the other side. This is how it looks from the front, and you'll see how it looks once we're done, and it'll look pretty good. Watch John get it on the first try. Make sure the poles are secured safely on the ground as they wrap around the back of the teepee. And there you have it. The Cree Style Teepee is now complete. And this is how the interior of the teepee looks. John told me to show the spiral in the center. And I gotta say, it's a pretty interesting design. And here's the circumference of the teepee. Step 19. Finally, put the door on the teepee, and then you're done. The differences between the Ojibwe style and the Cree style teepees is that the Cree style is more oval-shaped and longer, while the Ojibwe style teepee is a near-perfect circle that I took during the assembly of the Ojibwe style teepee. The doors are different on both teepees as well as the shape. The Cree style door is a porthole, and the Ojibwe style teepee has an archway instead of a porthole. They're both built differently in order to support their traditional styles. Now, you'll see the other knot tying techniques.